Welcome to Locked and Loaded Sports. It's time to lock in, load up, and win big. If you're serious about sports and love cashing in on solid picks, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's get to work. In this video, we will discuss Week 2 NFL Sunday picks for every game using a blend of historical data, advanced sports analytics, sorting real-world sentiment to deliver sharp and sometimes contrarian betting picks. Our first game to discuss will take place in Texas, where the Dallas Cowboys host the New York Giants. Last week, the Cowboys took an L, but let's not pretend they look anything short of dangerous. On the road in hostile Philly, in a game that had a lightning delay, ejections, and a Super Bowl banner ceremony, Dallas still had a shot to win it late, and they covered the spread in the process. That might be a moral victory to some, but for smart bettors, it was a ticket cashed. Now, they return home to AT&T Stadium in Arlington, where they've historically been a tough out. And coming in, a Giants team that looks utterly lost. New York stumbled out of the gate in embarrassing fashion in Week 1, managing just 6 points in a blowout loss to the Commanders. The offense was dysfunctional, red zone play calling was uninspired, and Russell Wilson looked like a QB still learning the system, and fast losing confidence. The Giants had 2 chances inside the 5 and came away with 3 points total. Worse than the scoreboard was the sideline meltdown, where Malik Neighbors was caught on camera screaming at head coach Brian DeBaugh throwing his helmet and throwing respect out the window. That's not the kind of energy you want heading into a rivalry game, especially in front of 80,000 fired-up Cowboys fans. Meanwhile, Dallas looked solid despite the Week 1 loss. The defense held the defending champs to 24 points. Dak Prescott looked poised, and CeeDee Lamb was a fingertip away from winning the game late in the fourth. According to StatMuse, Dak Prescott has a near-perfect record against the New York Giants, going 7-1 at home. His overall career record against the Giants is 13-2, with his last loss coming all the way back in 2017. That's not a trend, that's ownership. We are getting locked and loaded with the Cowboys to win and cover. For our next matchup, we are going to Cincinnati, where the Bengals take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Joe Burrow has had Jacksonville's number in the past. He's 2-0 against the Jaguars, including a memorable comeback win on TNF in 21. He picked apart the defense in the second half. Historically, when Burrow faces Jacksonville, good things happen for Cincinnati. But there's one odd trend that's hard to ignore. Burrow has never won a Week 2 game in his NFL career. He's 0-5, with each loss showing up in a different form: slow starts, turnovers, inconsistent execution. For whatever reason, Week 2 has been a wall he hasn't figured out how to climb. And this year, it's not going to get any easier. The Bengals scraped out a 1-point win over Cleveland in a game where their offense disappeared in the second half, and they were bailed out by missed kicks and tip picks. Cincinnati didn't cover the spread, didn't look in rhythm, and now faces a Jaguars team that's not just talented, they're confident. Meanwhile, the Jaguars are coming off a dominant 26-10 win over the Panthers in Week 1. Trevor Lawrence looked sharp, Travis Etienne looked explosive, and Liam Cohen's debut as head coach couldn't have gone much better. The Jags control both lines of scrimmage and never let the game feel competitive. Even with Burrow's past success against Jacksonville, this matchup feels different. Jacksonville is healthy. They have a revamped defense, and Trevor Lawrence has that good hair. We are getting locked and loaded with Jaguars to cover. In a Week 2 NFC North matchup, the Chicago Bears head to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions, with both teams looking to rebound after narrow losses in their season openers. The Lions are coming off a 27-13 road loss at Lambeau Field, where they struggled on both sides of the ball against the physical Packers defense. This marked a stark departure from recent success, since Detroit had won 3 straight at Green Bay before this year's performance. Last season's top-ranked scoring offense looked disjointed, failing to reach the end zone until the final minute of regulation. Jared Goff went 31-39 for 225 yards with a touchdown and an interception, but his efforts lacked explosiveness and efficiency in key moments. Running backs David Montgomery and Yamir Gibbs combined for just 44 yards on 20 carries, as the Lions failed to generate any rhythm in the run game. Chicago, meanwhile, fell 27-24 to the Vikings, but had bright spots, especially from rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. The number 1 overall pick threw for 210 yards and a touchdown and added another score on the ground. Despite a sloppy showing with 12 penalties for 127 yards, the Bears moved the ball consistently under new head coach Ben Johnson, the very same Ben Johnson who helped architect Detroit's high-powered offense in previous seasons. His familiarity with Detroit's personnel and Goff's tendencies could provide a strategic edge in this matchup. Williams has already shown he can perform in Detroit, throwing for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns in a narrow 23-20 loss at Ford Field last season. Another game where the Bears easily covered the spread. The Bears also hold a winning record all-time against the Lions and enter this game with the advantage of inside knowledge and a rising young quarterback. With Detroit still adjusting to life without its key leadership and struggling to replicate last season's dominance, Chicago is in a great spot to keep this game close. We are getting locked and loaded with the Bears. For our next game to discuss, we head to Nashville, where the Los Angeles Rams go on the road to take on the Tennessee Titans in a matchup that promises more bruises than big plays And if you're looking for offense, you might want to change the channel. Let's start with the Rams, who grinded out a 14-9 win over the Houston Texans in Week 1. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. Chris Shula's defense sacked C.J. Stroud 3 times, forced a late fumble to seal the win. The Texans never reached the end zone. Across the field, the Titans are coming off a 2012 road loss to the Denver Broncos, and while the final score was close, the game exposed clear growing pains on offense. Rookie quarterback Cam Ward showed flashes, but finished just 12 of 29 for 112 yards while taking 6 sacks. Tennessee failed to score a touchdown, settling for 4 field goals and missing out on a few key red zone chances. Both defenses look like playoff caliber units in Week 1, and with 2 physical defenses, inexperienced offensive lines, and quarterbacks facing serious pressure every dropback. This has all the makings of a 16-13 grinder. The Rams may have the edge with Stafford's experience and McVay's play calling, but this isn't shaping up to be a fantasy football feast. It's a field position chess match. We're getting locked and loaded with the under with a lean on the Titans to cover. And now we go to sunny Miami, where the Miami Dolphins are hosting the New England Patriots. If you're circling this AFC East matchup expecting fireworks, you might want to lower your expectations, but don't look away just yet. This one's about who can bounce back faster after a gut-checking Week 1. Let's start with New England. The Mike Vrabel era opened with promise, but fizzled fast in a 2013 home loss to the Raiders. The defense had its moments, with 4 sacks, an interception, and they bottled up number 6 pick Ashton Jainty to just 2.3 yards per carry. That front 7 is still nasty, but the back end, exposed. Geno Smith hit 9 passes of 20-plus yards for 362 total, torching a Patriots secondary that now gets Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle coming at them in Week 2. Offensively, Drake may show flashes, so Mute England still grinds for every inch. Red zone execution, short yardage woes, and drive-killing penalties, all still problems. Then there's Miami. Their Week 1 trip to Indy, disastrous. A 33-8 blowout where nothing clicked. From 12 men in the huddle on 4th and goal to getting run over by Jonathan Taylor and gashed by Daniel Jones, the Dolphins were a mess. No fight, no rhythm, no spark. But this is where Mike McDaniel earns his paycheck. He's 3-1 against the Patriots as head coach, and this locker room knows how to rebound, especially at home, where the heat and humidity are just as much a part of the game plan as the playbook. We're getting locked and loaded with the Dolphins to win straight up. After San Francisco 49ers head to New Orleans for a bruising week, 2 match up with the Saints squad licking their wounds after a gut-wrenching home loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Despite showing some fight late, the Saints came up short when tight end Juwan Johnson had a potential game-tying catch knocked loose in the end zone by Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. That play summed up the night. Close, but not enough. There were flashes of encouragement for New Orleans, but discipline was a killer. 13 penalties for 89 yards kept New Orleans behind the chains and out of rhythm. Across the country, the 49ers were in their own late-game dogfight and passed the test. Down 3 in Seattle, with injuries to George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, and Brandon Ayuk already affecting the game plan. Brock Purdy dug deep. He connected for a deflected game-winning touchdown with 1:34 remaining. The 17-13 final score wasn't flashy, but it was vintage Niners. Purdy finished 26 of 35 for 277 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, proving once again that poise under pressure is a feature, not a fluke. Kittle caught a score before exiting, and the defense under returning coordinator Robert Saleh dialed up relentless pressure late, holding the Seahawks scoreless in the 4th. New Orleans? They showed heart, but also the familiar traits of a team still trying to find its identity under a new head coach. We feel this 49ers team is too seasoned, too steady, and too well coached to let a sloppy team hang around in a loud Superdome. We're getting locked and loaded with the San Francisco 49ers to win and cover. MetLife Stadium will be rocking Sunday as the New York Jets look to rebound from a narrow Week 1 loss. And they might be catching the Buffalo Bills at just the right time. Buffalo comes in riding high after one of the wildest season opening finishes in recent memory, rallying from down 15 points in the final 4 minutes to steal a 41-40 win over Baltimore. Josh Allen was brilliant, throwing for 394 yards and 2 scores, including a pair of dagger drives that erased what looked like a sure Ravens victory. Buffalo's defense struggled for most of the game, surrendering 169 rushing yards and 2 scores to Derrick Henry, and allowing Baltimore to score on 7 of their first 8 possessions. While they tightened late and got the key stop to set up Allen's game winner, the cracks were evident. Now, they travel to face a Jets team that, despite the loss, flashed real upside in their 34-32 nail-biter against the Steelers. Justin Fields looked comfortable in his debut at home, completing 16 of 22 passes for 218 yards while adding 48 yards and 2 scores on the ground. The Jets racked up 183 rushing yards, outgaining Pittsburgh by more than 120 yards, but penalties and situational miscues did them in. It's easy to look at the 0-1 record and shrug off New York, but a deeper look suggests this team is far more dangerous than expected. This matchup screams letdown spot for Buffalo. Coming off an emotional, exhausting comeback win, now hitting the road against a Jets team that looked better than the final score indicates. We're not calling for the outright upset, but we are locked and loaded on the New York Jets to cover the spread at home in Week 2. If you're enjoying this content, give us a like and subscribe. Our next Sunday game to break down is between the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game has all the makings of a down-to-the-wire battle. Seattle might have come up short against the 49ers, but the tape shows a team that shouldn't be underestimated. Sam Darnold, stepping into a new role with the Seahawks, showed flashes of poise and chemistry with his receivers, especially on a 40-yard strike to Jackson Smith late in the game. That drive had the 49ers on the ropes, and if not for a strip sack by Nick Bosa at the 9-yard line, Darnold might have been celebrating his first win at home in the Emerald City. And credit to sophomore head coach Mike Macdonald. Former Ravens defensive coordinator is already putting his stamp on this team. Seattle was aggressive, organized, and tough in the trenches. His scheme gave Purdy fits, and the defense came within one red zone stop of walking out with the win. Seattle kept San Francisco's offense in check for long stretches. Holding the 49ers to just 17 points is no small feat, and it speaks to how physical and disciplined this Seattle squad can be when it's locked in. But now they leave the comfort of Lumen Field for the cold, unforgiving steel of Pittsburgh. There, the Seahawks won't just face a team riding momentum. They'll face a quarterback who just reminded the world he still has ice in his veins. Aaron Rodgers looked like vintage number 12 in his Steelers debut, throwing 4 touchdowns and no picks in a thrilling 34-32 win over the Jets. 2 of those scores came in a 50-second span that flipped the game on its head, and his calm execution down the stretch led to Chris Boswell's booming 60-yard game winner. Rodgers isn't trying to find rhythm. He's already in it. And when it comes to big moments, few in NFL history have been more prepared. But the real storm clouds for Seattle come on defense. Steelers defense, that is. If Darnold blinked under Bosa's pressure last week, TJ Watt will be haunting his pocket like a shadow this Sunday. Darnold will need to be quicker, smarter, and far more decisive than he was last week, or the result may look hauntingly familiar. The Seahawks are a legitimate team, and Darnold is showing promise. Coach Mike Macdonald has them bought in, but this isn't just a business trip. It's a war in one of the loudest, most hostile environments in football. And in that arena, with Rodgers commanding the offense and Watt lurking in the shadows, there's one side that has earned the edge. We're getting locked and loaded with Steelers to win outright for parlays, and we like buying a half point for straight bettors to get the spread under a field goal. Moving on to Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Indianapolis Colts host the Denver Broncos. The Broncos didn't play a perfect game in Week 1, but they didn't have to. Their 2012 victory over the Titans sent a clear message to the rest of the league. This defense is dangerous. No one knows that better now than Cam Ward to know. 1 overall pick, whose highly anticipated debut turned into a nightmare against Denver's swarming front. At the center of it all was reigning Defensive Player of the Year Patrick Surtain, who looked every bit as dominant as advertised. His lockdown coverage helped force 5 punts and a turnover on Tennessee's final 6 drives. Ward was never comfortable, and that's exactly how Sean Payton drew it up. Speaking of Payton, his record against the Colts speaks volumes. Most fans will remember his most iconic win against Indy, a 31-17 victory over Peyton Manning and the Colts in Super Bowl 44, delivering New Orleans its first Lombardi trophy. Now at the helm in Denver, Peyton once again finds himself facing Indy. And while quarterback Bo Nix wasn't perfect in his debut, he showed composure. More importantly, he had the backing of a defense that allowed him to take safe throws and avoid critical mistakes. That formula, conservative offense, dominant defense, won't light up the scoreboard, but it travels well, especially to a place like Lucas Oil Stadium, where Denver will try to slow down a Colts team fresh off an emotional, dominant Week 1 win of their own. The Colts earned their flowers last week, and quarterback Daniel Jones was the story. After narrowly beating out Anthony Richardson for the starting job, Jones looked completely in command. He completed 22 of 29 passes for 272 yards, ran for 2 touchdowns, and threw for another. His 197 first-half passing yards marked a career high, and he took only 1 sack while making clean reads and adjustments at the line. But that was against the Dolphins defense that didn't put up much resistance. Now the Colts face a test they didn't see in Week 1, a battle-hardened Broncos defense that is faster, more physical, and far more punishing than anything Miami brought to the table. The Colts are clearly playing inspired football, but Denver won't be shaken by the moment. We're getting locked and loaded with Denver to cover as favorites. Remember to leave a comment with your favorite plays of the week. And now we head to the Red Sea, where the Arizona Cardinals host the struggling Carolina Panthers. The Panthers opened the season with a 26-10 loss to Jacksonville, and second-year quarterback Bryce Young struggled again. He finished with 154 passing yards, 2 interceptions, a fumble, and a wild throw out the back of the end zone on a critical 4th down. But even in the loss, there were flashes of fight. Running back Chuba Hubbard ran tough 16 carries, 57 yards, added 32 receiving yards, and scored Carolina's only touchdown. Wide receiver Ted McMillan made plays with 5 catches for 68 yards, and cornerback J.C. Horn had a strong game with an interception. The defense bent but didn't break, forcing mistakes and keeping the game within reach longer than expected. Now they head to Arizona, where the Cardinals beat the Saints 2013 in Week 1. Kyler Murray threw 2 touchdowns, but the win was more about New Orleans penalties and rookie head coach Kellen Moore struggling than it was about Arizona dominating. This is a prime letdown spot for Murray, who's won 3 all-time against Carolina and could be facing a fired-up Panthers defense. Plus, the Cardinals may be shorthanded, with linebacker Cody Simon and safety Joey Blount both under concussion evaluation. The public will be heavy on Arizona, but Carolina's run game and bounce-back potential make this a classic value spot. We're getting locked and loaded with the Panthers to cover as road dogs. Our next Week 2 matchup brings us a heavyweight clash at Arrowhead, a Super Bowl rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. 2 elite teams, 2 MVP-caliber quarterbacks, and 1 clear angle to target. The Chiefs are coming off a 27-21 loss to the Chargers, but Patrick Mahomes was in late-game form, leading scoring drives on each of Kansas City's final 5 possessions. He finished with 258 passing yards, including a 49-yard bomb to Hollywood Brown and a 37-yard touchdown to Travis Kelce. The issue was penalties, missed chances, and a back-breaking scramble by Justin Herbert on 3-yard and long sealed the deal. The Eagles, meanwhile, looked like defending champs in a 31-17 win over the Giants. Jalen Hurts didn't dominate through the air 152 yards, but his legs did the damage, 62 rushing yards and 2 TDs. Add in Saquon Barkley's 84 total yards and a touchdown, so our fans in Philly's offense showed its usual balance and power. Both defenses have some red flags. KC gave up big plays and couldn't close late, while Philly let the Giants move the ball more than the score suggests. Combine that with Andy Reid's track record against his old team, every matchup as Chiefs head coach has gone over the total, including the 40-22 Super Bowl shootout, and we've got a familiar formula. We're getting locked and loaded with the over. The last matchup to discuss is a juicy Sunday night football game where the Minnesota Vikings host the Atlanta Falcons in a matchup of 2 young quarterbacks looking to make early statements in their sophomore seasons. Minnesota comes in with confidence after a 27-24 comeback win over the Bears in Week 1. J.J. McCarthy showed resilience, bouncing back from a third-quarter pick 6 to lead 3 straight touchdown drives in the 4th. He connected with Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones for scores and added a 14-yard rushing touchdown to seal the game. The Vikings also got a boost from their rookie kicker, who nailed a 59-yard field goal to end the first half. Defensively, the Vikings clamped down when it mattered and showed they can win tight games, especially with McCarthy growing into his role and the offense finding its rhythm. Atlanta, meanwhile, is reeling from a 23-20 home loss to Tampa Bay. Michael Penix Jr. looked promising on an 18-play go-ahead touchdown drive, but the Falcons couldn't hold the lead. Bijan Robinson was dynamic as a receiver with 100 yards and a touchdown, but the run game faltered, totaling just 69 yards. Injuries to Drake London, Jamal Agnew, and Darnell Mooney leave the Falcons thin at wide receiver and limit their offensive options. With Minnesota finding early balance and playing in a loud home environment and Atlanta battling injuries and offensive inconsistency, we are getting locked and loaded with the Vikings to cover. That wraps up another breakdown here on Locked and Loaded Sports. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the latest sports analysis and betting insights. More picks, more locks, and more action is coming your way. That's all for now. Stay sharp, stay ready, and get locked and loaded.